Is this while you were on duty?
Yes. He's the one that followed me on my day off on a Friday afternoon on Main Street.
And would you just point out to the court Graham Colson for us, please?
Graham Colson's the gentleman with the sunglasses and the fake badge.
Thank you.
Just as real as yours.
Okay, I'm just gonna say this one time, if council wanna speak for defendants, they're able to do so. If there are further remarks from people who are not counsel or not parties, or if they're represented, the lawyer can speak for them. If there are remarks from someone other than counsel, then I would have the person removed. Mr. Colson, that's the last remark unless you're testifying, understood? Thank you. Attorney Bauer.
Thank you. So with regard to Mr. Colson, you indicated he would call you various names. I think you said bitch and boy and
Coward,
coward.
racist,
And these were all while you were doing your job?
yes.
Would tell us about your testimony about day off interactions by Mr. Colson.
I had one one-on-one interaction with Mr. Colson. It was a Friday afternoon. I was in the center of Main Street where it divides Main Street and is parking on both sides. And I was talking to a friend of mine, and Mr. Colson was standing, I must have been 2 or 3 meters away from me, watching me for about 5 to 10 minutes. And I mentioned to my friend that this was one of the gentlemen that has been following me around. And I said, asked him to watch when I walked away and see if that he followed me. And when I walked away, I turned up north towards Main Street, towards City Hall. I believe I crossed Church Street, and he was following me, so I threw away my coffee cup, and I decided to turn around back the other way, and I turned back around the other way, and he was following me.
Would he follow you on a regular basis? When I say he, would Mr. Colson follow you on a regular basis, Monday through Thursday?
Yes,
And how close would he get to you?
close enough that if I turned around really quickly, we would bump into each other.
And did you tell Mr. Colson that you wanted him to get back away from you, out of your face, as you said?
Yes,
How many times did you say that to Mr. Colson, approximately?
throughout the day, or a total number. It was countless how many times I told him, but throughout the day, it'd probably be half a dozen times.
And what impact did that have on you, Alan, throughout the day?
Some days, some of the things that would happen, it would just be so outrageous that I would have to laugh about it, but other days I'd just be so furious that my face would be red, I'd be just wanting to get away, and I'd have to go away, like, and take a break, either get in the car and leave, or go in City Hall or the library and use the bathroom just to get 5 to 10 minutes away from it, just as a breather.
Now, did Mr. Colson was he also joined by other of the defendants?
Yes,
By whom?
sometimes he was joined by Kate Hager, I believe her name is. Sometimes it was Garrett Ian. Sometimes it was James Cleveland. It varied day to day who was with him. Sometimes he was by himself.
And when you say that he was joined by Kate Ager, for example, tell the court an example of those kinds of interactions with Mr. Colson and Ms. Ager.
Usually it was in the morning with Miss Ager, and it was usually she was just walking beside me. Sometimes she'd ask questions. Sometimes it appeared like she was texting or talking on her phone. I didn't see too much videotaping from her. She was actually one of the more quiet ones.
And do you say, what interactions did you see between Mr. Colson and Kate Ager?
Sometimes they'd be riding in the vehicle together, looking for us, or following us in the vehicle. Sometimes they'd be walking next to each other, talking.
And just for the record, would you point out Kate Ager for the court, please?
She's the lady between Garrett and Ian.
Thank you. How about with regard to Garrett Ian? And first, would you just point him out for the court, please?
He's a gentleman in a plaid shirt.
The green.
Yes, sir.
And what interactions did you encounter between Mr. Colson and Mr. Ian as it related to you doing your job?
Same thing, Graham would usually be walking with him or feeding meters in front of me while Garrett would be videotaping. Sometimes they'd be talking to each other on their radios if they weren't with each other at the moment during that day. And then, you know, like if I'd be walking down the street with Mr. Colson, he'd get on his radio or his phone and call somebody, and then Mr. Ian would show up. And, you know, either Garrett would be filming and Mr. Colson would be feeding the meters, or vice versa.
And again, how close would Garrett Ian be to you while doing his activities?
Most of the time, Garrett would give me some space. A lot of times he'd be following so close that when I did turn around, we'd almost literally run into each other. And when I asked him to give me some space, it would be the fact that he would say something like, well, it's your fault, you changed directions. So he varied his distances. He was more sporadic than Mr. Colson would be.
Alan, why was giving you space important to you?
Well, for one, I didn't like the fact that if I did turn around, I'd be constantly afraid of walking into somebody. For two, it's just common decency. It's somebody's personal space. Sometimes they'd be so close where I couldn't even make a phone call without them hearing what I was talking about. I mean, there was a time on Main Street where I asked Mr. Colson to give me some space where I can continue this phone call, and he wouldn't. He'd stand right there. So I'd have to end the phone call and walk away.
And how about, you also mentioned Mr. Cleveland, that he would also participate with Mr. Colson in directing conduct and activity towards you?
I didn't see Mr. Cleveland that often with Mr. Colson as much as I did Mr. Ian. For a while, Mr. Cleveland was only doing it on Saturdays towards the end of my employment there, so I didn't see him as much towards the end. But when he was around, he'd be the same thing. They'd swap turns, feed meters, or they'd both do it, or one would feed meters, one would leave their cards on the windshields. Their actions vary day to day usually, as far as who did what.
And how about, you testified, if you remember, about a month ago with regard to some of the conduct that you experienced with Pete. There's some water there if you want to. So, Pete.
Air.
Air.
Yes.
You remember that testimony?
Yeah. My interaction with Pete Air was limited, like I said in that testimony, and I really didn't see him too much interacting or working with the other individuals. It was more of like a one-on-one basis type interaction in this area.
Now, how about, did you experience any problems over the internet with any of these defendants?
Yeah, there was one post on Facebook that
On what Facebook?
I just saw it because I'm third-party friends with somebody, with one of the individuals here, and it tagged my name, it had my name in it, and that's how I read it, and it said that I apparently had a man crush on Jay Freeville, whoever that is.
You had a man crush?
Yeah, that's what the post said.
What did you understand that to mean?
That I liked that individual, I guess,
And who posted that?
Mr. Colson,
How do you know that?
because like I said, I was tagged in it, so I read it, and it also sends it to my email.
I'll just see a screenshot.
I'd like to show a videotape, and we're going to submit this as evidence, Your Honor, and I wanted to preface it by saying that this is going to be depicting Mr. Gibbets, Alan Gibbets, as well as two of the defendants, Mr. Colson and Mr. Ian, videotaping. And the purpose of this, I'm not going to ask any questions during it. The purpose of this is to try to put us in the shoes of Alan Gibbets on that particular day. Is that all right?
Meyer, have you seen this?
No, I haven't seen it.
You have not?
had the opportunity to see it.
All
But again, the witness testified to his experience. I don't understand what the purpose of the video is. Or the relevance of it.
Objection overruled.
Thank you. So I'm not gonna ask you any questions. We're gonna run this, and it's gonna be some time.
Well, Your Honor,
And then
you've
I'm.
overruled
I'll-
my objection to relevance. I haven't had a chance to see it yet.
Well, could you pinpoint it a little bit more? When was this video taken?
Your Honor, I can represent that this is a video that we uncovered on YouTube. It is our belief that it was created by Garrett Ian and Graham Colson, and we believe that simply watching the video will bear that out quite clearly. But we can provide source details as to where it came from, if that would be helpful for Attorney Meyer.
I guess what I'm looking for is when is this even for any of the time frame?
Oh, yes.
That's an issue in the case?
Yes, it is.
And has there been any editing done to the video?
This is an original video that was downloaded in full from YouTube.
How long?
20 minutes.
It's 20 minutes.
It's important, Judge, and I understand, and I understand that 20 minutes is 20 minutes, and it's a long time. But it's the only way that I think that I can provide testimony through these people to put, frankly, you in the shoes of them in terms of what they've experienced on a week-to-week basis.
What we're going to do is we're going to watch it, and then if you want to make any objections to it after we've seen it, any evidentiary objections, I'll deal with them at that point. But
Thank
we'll
you.
watch the video now. Attorney Meyer, if you can't see it, if you need to move or
Well,
position
I
yourself.
just, thank you, Your Honor.
Okay.
The guy that approached us thought the same thing. He didn't make me, I chose to. Hey, buddy. Are you still looking for it? I think so. I don't know. I've never eaten in there myself. I know it's like a family thing. Oh. deal. Why do you film the public without their permission?
I didn't film that guy.
He was right in the frame of me.
No, he wasn't actually.
Yeah, are you supposed to film the public without their permission?
I'm actually very vigilant.
Okay, that's weird.
There's no law against it, but I'm generally pretty vigilant about not getting people in the frame that don't want to be. That was all you.
Police used to like everything under the wiretapping statute.
I don't know, I just asked.
Yeah, the wiretapping statute is 644B, and it makes it a felony to record someone in an instance in which they have an expectation of privacy, which in public one does not. But over telephone lines or
That's a whole different ballgame.
residence or
Oh, sorry about that, man.
Watch what you're doing. You're running into people.
No, I'm not.
You're gonna be obnoxious. Watch where you're going. That lady just walked.
Actually, she did kind of walk into me, but it was sort of the same thing you did earlier, where you stepped to the side,